it's all really about quantum physics. And so these are principles that are very, very foreign to most of us. But uh, in quantum physics, we find that you can ask any quantum physicist, they'll tell you we're absolutely all connected. So imagine sitting on a beach and you're looking out at the ocean and you see some islands. Well, they look separate, don't they? But if you were to drain the water out of the ocean, you'd see that, oh, those are all part of the same landmass. In fact, all the islands all over the whole world, in a sense, they're all connected. And so there are some really interesting principles in quantum physics. One of those is called entanglement, where we now know that energies, or we'll say particles, can become entangled or connected with one another at distances at least as great as the diameter of the Earth. And so when those particles become entangled, then they are essentially locked together, at least temporarily. And so, it's an interesting thing, Lee. When I was in practice, I never learned how to do this from anyone. It was something that just I kind of intuitively knew, um, or somehow knew it before I came here and remembered somehow. But the only time I used it when I was actually in my brick and mortar practice was when a patient of mine would go on vacation or something, and they'd go on a trip and they'd end up sometimes having trouble, and they would call me and they'd say, oh, my back or my knee or whatever is killing me. Can you help me? And I was always able to tune in remotely and establish what we call a proxy connection with them, which is what we explain, both in the emotion code and in the body code, because it's something that you can actually do. It's very simple, and so I learned early on how powerful it was, and that people didn't actually have to be there live and in person. I remember, to give you an idea how powerful it can be. One day, I think it was in 2008, the year after the Emotion Code book came out, I was doing a radio show, and I've done somewhere around probably 1,600 or so radio shows over all these years. And I'm doing this radio show, and this woman calls in. Her name is Barbara, and she has acid reflux. And so I tested her and found that she had what we call a hiatal hernia, which is where the stomach protrudes up a little bit into the chest cavity. So the sphincter at the top of the stomach doesn't work great. And so she said that this has been going on for years, and it's really been bothering her. It's gradually been getting worse. It's just miserable, right? It's a miserable thing to have that reflux constantly. It's horrible. People have to live with that. But you don't have to live with it because actually it's fixable. So what I did with her, now think about this, okay? I'm out west in the U.S. She's in Ohio, and so in the middle of the country, so hundreds and hundreds of miles apart. And so I tuned into her remotely, like we teach in the Emotion Code, and started asking some questions. Now, one of the things that you can do is we teach you how to get answers on your own body. Strong answers for yes, weak answers for no, even from the subconscious mind of another person, right? And so I'm tuned into her and I'm asking questions. And what I find is that, hey, she's got a trapped emotion that's part of the reason for this issue. So using the chart, I find a trapped emotion on there. I don't remember what the emotion was. Actually, I think it was frustration. Anyway, from age 35, right? And she's like 53 at the time. And she immediately said, oh yeah, I know what that is. Sometimes people remember, sometimes they don't, as you know. And she remembered what it was, something specific. And so I released it. And when you're working on somebody remotely, basically your subconscious mind has the ability to set aside its own needs to act on behalf of someone else. And so in other words, your energies and theirs can become entangled through that principle of quantum physics. And then you can actually ask questions and get answers very easily. And so, to release that, I just swiped a few times with a magnet or my hand over the top of my head like so to release it. And she said it felt a little bit better. And so then, that was fine. I finished the interview with Dr. It was Dr. Richard DeCenso's program, actually. I finished the interview with him. And then the next day, she sends me this email. And in the email, she explains that that next day, she didn't tell me on the interview, but she had an interview. She had an appointment to have surgery on this hiatal hernia. Uh, I had an aunt many years ago who died from this surgery during the surgery. It's kind of major. They have to open you up. They have to pull the stomach down and then staple it to the ribs and so on. And it's really nasty. She was going to have that surgery because she was just fed up with having this reflux. Anyway, she goes to the hospital and they give her barium to swallow, right? Because they're going to do what they call a scout X-ray, a scout film to see where everything is. And the barium helps to really show things. So she takes that, they do the films, and after studying the films for a while, the doctor comes out and he said, I don't really know how to explain this, he said, but it's not there anymore. And there's no fissuring or pitting or anything. It looks perfectly textbook normal, so we're canceling the surgery. And so she sends me this in an email, and it's got like 150 exclamation points in it. She's super excited. And she's never had any trouble since then, and we're still in touch through her husband. So, but that's the reality of it. Is, you see, we're living now in the 21st century, and our minds are beginning to expand, and our consciousness is beginning to expand, and we're starting to understand who we are, that we're divine beings, and that there are divine reasons for each one of us to be here. This is not a mistake. It's not happenstance. And so these new healing methods that are coming into the world are important because it's time for us to realize that we ourselves are capable of things that we never could have imagined before. And I've told people before many times that when you're using the emotion code or the body code on somebody that you care about, they're on the other side of the planet. And from what you do, all of a sudden, their pain level goes from a 9 to a 0, for example, or all of a sudden, their depression is gone or whatever because of your efforts, and you're on the other side of the world. I mean, when that happens to you, in that moment, your life will change forever because you'll realize, wow, didn't know I could do that.